Today I'll be doing a video on the sanity region of the mind. I find the sanity region of the mind interesting when God decides to quasi-snap someone in the sanity region of the mind. It's rare. God would be very good providing contributions in fields like neuroscience, when God quasi-snaps the sanity region of the mind, it takes an omniscient being to do it. The humans could try and do it. It wouldn't work in the context of a hyper-rational person. In the context of a hyper-rational person, it takes an omniscient being to quasi-snap the sanity region of the mind. The interesting thing about the quasi-snap in the sanity region of the mind is that God exposes a creature to sudden stimuli, for example. The sudden stimuli which the mind is exposed to of itself, that stimuli of itself is what does the quasi-snap in the sanity region of the mind. For the mind to completely snap, or for it to be a bit more of a quasi-snap in the sanity region, it would be like the object which is being perceived. The object could be meddled with to a very small extent, and then that would make it a bit more than a quasi-snap of the sanity region of the mind in the context of a hyper-rational person. But if someone were to make something special out of the object which represents a direct assault on the sanity region of the mind, if someone makes a big deal out of it or tries to bring attention to whatever the object is, then suddenly there isn't any quasi-snap in the sanity region of the mind. The object can fall under the scope of reason, and at that point it's like the hyper-rational person would basically be like, yeah, I'm sane. But without that, an object in itself, God can choose an object and know that the object in itself will be sufficient to quasi-snap the sanity region in the mind. God understands that some people amalgamate all sorts of ideas, and the amalgamation of ideas seems like it perhaps might fall under the scope of reason, but the amalgamation of ideas, the connections between the ideas, there are gaps between the connections there. So the person can't make enough connections for the object to be seen as something other than an assault on the sanity region of the mind. And one of the interesting things about the sanity region of the mind is that it doesn't even have to be objects which do the assault on the sanity region of the mind, the perceiving of the objects or the object. It doesn't even have to be objects. The sanity region of the mind could experience a quasi-snap just from an idea. The objects or the idea or an object, it's interesting. It's all of a divine origin. No human being could get an idea or get an object or objects and could know that those objects would represent a direct assault on the sanity region of the mind. No person could do that. It takes an omniscient being for there to be a quasi-snap in the sanity region of the mind in the context of a hyper-rational person. And whatever the object or objects are, or whatever the idea is, it's always of an external origin. One of the interesting things about the sanity region of the mind is that individuals can sense that there's that there can be ideas, and that the ideas can be subtly worked into the mind of a person, so subtly that other people could intuitively tell that the person didn't come up with the ideas themselves. If a person were to come up with ideas which were a result of God working certain ideas into the mind of a person, and the ideas wouldn't at all quasi snap the sanity region of the mind. Some ideas, it's just like, yeah, that's obviously of an external origin. The person obviously didn't come up with the ideas themselves. Obviously, they're of an external origin and they were subtly worked into the mind. And with those ideas, I think that people can intuitively know that the ideas are of an external origin, and they can know that without having the sanity and region of the mind being quasi-snapped.